Let's start with the face mask, or face shell. I downloaded this pattern from the RPF. It's a free file off the forum, and I'll link it in the description below. And I'm pretty much using just thin EVA foam. I'm using a giant flooring mat I got from Home Depot. Whatever flooring foam you have or actual EVA foam works. Trace your pattern pieces onto the foam and cut them out, and we're going to glue them together with rubber cement or barge rubber cement. And along the way, make sure you're fitting this to your face, adjust it, make it smaller or bigger where you need to. I got my lenses from a costume shop online, and I will link it in the description below. And I did have to adjust the eyes of the face shell pattern a little bit to match these ones that I bought. This step ended up being unnecessary, but I thought I needed to make the lenses fit very flush, so I taped them up and then put foam clay or air dry clay in between the gap of the face shell and the lens. You can do this if you want, but when I covered the face shell with fabric, you could not tell at all. You will also notice that I drilled holes in the foam on the top of the head as well as at the mouth, just to keep it from getting too hot and so I could breathe out of it. And I did end up painting the foam face shell just a white. I actually only had cream, just so you couldn't see the color of the foam behind the white mask. And to make a pattern for this face mask, what I did was I put the face shell over a styrofoam head with my wig on it, and I wrapped the whole thing in cling wrap and then some masking tape, and I cut that up and used it for the pattern. Now, my white fabric isn't super stretchy, so this ended up being kind of difficult. I had to make a lot of adjustments and take it in a lot of paces to make it fit very flushly. So it ended up having more seams than I wanted to, but the front is still seam free and it does look pretty good. And then to keep everything in place, I used E6000 glue and glued the fabric down to the face shell. Overall, I'm not too happy with the way the mask came out. The face shell ended up being a little big, and I kind of think I look like a bobblehead with it on. It's not bad, it looks fine. I'm just not perfectly happy with it, and if I'm not perfectly happy with it, I need to redo it. But that project is for another day. For now, we're gonna move on to doing the shoes. Big fatty fat disclaimer! These are Pointe shoes. They are for ballerinas who are trained in Pointe. Pointe shoes can be very dangerous. You can hurt yourself, tweak muscles, break bones, break ankles, sprain ankles if you do not use them correctly. Never use Pointe shoes for cosplay unless you are practiced on Pointe. That being said, I am not a professional ballerina. However, I have friends who are, and I did practice on Pointe. Long story short, I bought some pink Pointe shoes on Amazon, and I painted them with the same mixture of fabric paint that I used to do the webbing on my bodysuit. For the ribbons, I took off the pink ribbons and I bought a minty blue ribbon and I just sewed it back into the shoe. And yes, the paint on the bottom and the tip of the shoe is going to get ruined pretty quickly, but that's okay. The whole shoe needs to be blue. And I didn't record it, but I did this same process on a pair of flats. I recycled a pair of old flats from my closet, painted them blue, and attached ribbons on them to make fake ballet Pointe shoes, because we all know you can't just wear Pointe shoes all day. Feet can't handle that. So I made normal shoes that kind of look like Pointe shoes to wear around conventions. Now let's move on to the last part, the wig. This wig is from Arta Wigs. It's the Blue Steel Classic in the color Ash Blonde. And yes, all of my wig heads have funny faces drawn on them, so get used to looking at it. He's gonna be staring back at you the whole video. First, I made a part down the wig. And because Gwen Stacy's hair is asymmetrical, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up cutting off some of the hair from the left side of the wig. Crap, the right side of the wig? The right side of the wig. Yeah, I'm gonna pull over the top layer, so you're not gonna cut that, it needs to stay long, but just under that, go ahead and just cut off some of the hair. And I'm actually using Allison Tabitha's method of hot glue and paint to style this wig. I'm gonna list her original tutorial in the description below, and please check that out. It's a little more detailed than this is gonna be. But essentially, I'm just cutting off fibers where her hair is shorter, and then I'm gonna take that hair and hot glue it down to the part so you can't see the wig wefts. I'm also going to use those long fibers from the right side of the wig that I cut off and glue them onto the left side where that side's very full and very long. I'm pretty much going to make it longer. Now you can just use the fibers from the wig. However, I did want this wig to be a little bit more full and cartoon-like. So I did buy an additional pack of short wefts from Arta in the same color, and I glued those into the left side of the wig as well. I also used hot glue and teasing to give the hair more volume. Pretty much use a teasing brush, tease some of the fibers, and then I just put hot glue on it so it could keep its shape. Once you have all the hair fibers glued in where you want them, and the wig styled with the part looking nice and the front looking nice, we're going to go ahead and paint the roots. I started with the undercut because pretty much all of that is dark, so I pinned up the top long layers and I used watered down just brown acrylic paint and slathered it all over the wig. Then for the top layers, I took down just a few layers at a time, added the brown acrylic paint just to the roots and kind of dry brushed it down and used some water to make it fade. Do this for all layers of the wig until you reach the top part. This way of dyeing or coloring wigs is very simple, it's very cheap and effective, and the outcome looks really good. However, with the hot glue and the paint, this is permanent. You cannot go back and restyle this wig, so as you're working, make sure it's exactly the way you want it to look. And once the whole thing is dried, you can see it looks pretty realistic. The only thing about it is that the wig does become pretty stiff, and in a pro, it does hold its style and it pretty much doesn't get messed up. But as a con, anywhere where you use the paint, the hair fibers are pretty stiff. But as long as you keep the acrylic paint at the root of the wig, you won't notice. The hair is going to look natural, it's going to fall natural. All that's left is to give it a little bit of texture. In the movie, Into the Spider-Verse, Gwen's hair does have a nice wave texture to it. So what I did is I braided the hair in small sections, and then I put a bag over it and steamed it, got the hair fibers really hot, kind of wet, and then let them dry completely. Take the braids out and you'll have a nice wave to the hair. And bam! Look at that nice wig. And that wraps up my Spidergwen tutorials. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!